fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Will G's Football Talk Show. We have a great episode this week. We look at a little bit what happened week 7. We talk about some fantasy football and some injuries. And last but not least, I'll give you guys my week 8 predictions. So stay tuned because we have a great episode. So let's start this episode off with what happened in week 7. The Chiefs dominated under the Thursday night lights, but it came at a cost for their quarterback. Patrick Mahomes dislocated his left knee, but the MRI results came out clean, and he was back at practice today, but he is expected to miss a couple weeks. Aaron Rodgers put up 6 total touchdowns this past weekend against the Raiders, and they're dominating 42-24 win over the Raiders. He also had 430 passing yards. The 49ers and the Patriots both remain undefeated so far this season after big wins versus the Redskins and the Jets. Will they remain undefeated going into week 8? Find out later in this week's episode. Lamar Jackson showed out against Russ this weekend in a big win in Seattle over the Seahawks, 30-16. Last but not least, the Bears and the Eagles both took back-to-back losses this past weekend. Neither team could seem to get anything offensively going, so will the struggles continue throughout the season? That's a big question. And that will wrap up this week's Week 7 recap. Now let's move on to Will G's Fantasy Talk. I'm going to give you my stardoms and my situms. Start Jared Goff versus Cincinnati this week. He's playing the Bengals, so, that should be an easy go. Give Jared Goff the start. And start Kenny Golladay versus the Giants. The Giants have allowed the 7th most points to receivers out wide this season, so give Kenny Golladay a go. Now, my situms for this week, Adrian Peterson versus his former team. The Vikings have a great run defense, and Peterson and the Redskins have no offense. It's going to be tough for him to get going. And sit Alshon Jeffrey versus Buffalo. That Buffalo defense is hot, and the Eagles are struggling, so make sure to keep him on your bench this week. And that'll wrap up this week's Will G's Fantasy Football Talk. Now let's get into this week's injury report. Vikings wide receiver tonight, Adam Thielen, will not get to go as he's still battling his hamstring injury. Mahomes, even though he is back and practicing, is not expected to play this Sunday night versus the Packers. And Drew Brees finally has been ruled a game-time decision this Sunday versus the Arizona Cardinals. This would be his first game back since week 2, where he injured his thumb against the Rams. Some tough news for Lions fans here. Kerryon Johnson has been placed on IR with his knee injury that he was battling in last Sunday's game. So there is some hopes of returning, but it will be very, very late in the season. Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan is expected to give it a go this weekend after suffering an ankle injury in last Sunday's game. He's facing the Seattle Seahawks. And last but not least, Josh Gordon, unfortunately, has just been placed on IR by the New England Patriots. That is a tough loss, but they just acquired Mohamed Sanu through trade. So, kind of fills that void there. But that will also wrap up this week's injury report. Now the moment you guys have all been waiting for, Will G's rapid fire predictions. Yes, I am still kind of on a roll. Not as good as last week. Went 8-4 last week. Went 8-5 this week. Whatever. My Bears choked it. I'll blame it on them. So like I said, 8-5 this week. That puts me at a total of 52-39 on the season. Trace remains at 2-4 on his upsets of the week, and Lucas is now 4-3 after not hitting his lock last week. But let's get into this week's predictions. Case Keenum returns to Minneapolis tonight, but this time, no miracle. The Vikings win in this week's Lucas Hoyt Lock of the Week, 35-14. Russ gets back on track and shows Atlanta why the Seahawks are the true Dirty Birds, 28-17 Seahawks. Bears finally show up in a must-win game over the Chargers and improve to 4-3, 24-16 Bears. And the Lions bounce back in the Motor City in a big win over the Giants, 27-17. The Jaguars will get back to 500 this week after a big win over the Jets, 17-14. Bengals, yes, I repeat, the Cincinnati Bengals hand the Los Angeles Rams a big loss this Sunday in Trace Dawley's upset of the week, 24-22. Trace, you are the boldest dude I know. The Titans make a big splash against Jameis and the Bucks this Sunday in their 23-17 win. The Bills send the Eagles flying back home this Sunday after they get swatted 24-14. Peyton Manning's old teams duke it out this weekend in Indianapolis, and the Colts cannot stop winning 24-14 over the Broncos. The Arizona Cardinals look to pull off an upset down in the Bayou, but just come up a tad bit short, 24-21 Saints. The 49ers will remain unbeaten this weekend in a huge NFC matchup against the Carolina Panthers, 27-21. D-Hop drops a nuke on Oakland this upcoming Sunday as the Texans take down the Raiders, 28-24. Baker and the Browns cannot stop that New England machine as they get beat down in Foxborough, 32-17. And the Kansas City Chiefs will drop their third straight game in Arrowhead as they don't have Patrick Mahomes and will get beat by Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, 32-14. And last but certainly least, the Dolphins head to the Steel City on Monday night and take a fat L to the Steelers, 28-14. And that will wrap up Will G's Rapid Fire Predictions. Pay attention to me now because I'm staying hot. So start marking my picks down as dubs and you'll start making some money. But you know how it goes. That will also wrap up this week's edition of Will G's Football Talk Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button for more weekly Bears and NFL content. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. Have a great weekend. Go Redskins tonight and bear down.